Hello and welcome to ChinnyVision. This time, the final part of our roundup of personal computer news. Yes, I'm sorry this is taking a bit longer than expected. I was reminded of the other day that I hadn't got round to doing this. The final part of our run-through of personal computer news, the weekly computer magazine in the UK that ran between 1983 and 1985, that accurately tracks how the UK computer market developed during that time. And one thing I've got to say is, if you're watching this so far, or just coming, or if you're just coming to this, go back and look at the older editions, because we're now into 1985, and personal computer news has about 5 months to run, and it's in the decline. They're cutting back. That's a very important thing to say when we're looking at this. But we're on the second edition of 1985, and the Enterprise has arrived. Was it worth the wait? Well, you might remember they've actually in fact reviewed this once already, so why are they reviewing it again? But we'll scroll through and have a look, and we've got more details of things going on with the ORAC there. There is a setback. They're moving to foreign manufacturing, and the ORAC has announced a change of tactics, and the computer will be available in March. Bruce Everest, managing director of Tansoft, says, "It looks as though the Stratos will be manufactured in France and not the UK as originally planned." Was it Bruce saying that? We could probably say it's going to be manufactured on Mars. "The French government tends to support new technology more than the government over here. We've designed the Stratos around French requirements because that will be its initial market." It's toast. It's absolutely toast. Not even Bruce's golden touch can save this one. So that's pretty much the end of the ORAC as we know it. We have the charts, and these are the charts for the week going up to the 3rd of January 1985. So we're going to see what Christmas number 1 was, and of course it was Ghostbusters, Airwolf at number 2, Matchday at number 3, Night Nora at number 4, and 3D Star Strike, a game pretty much forgotten about these days, at number 5, ahead of Elite. But of course, Elite costs £15 and currently is only available on the Acorn. 3D Star Strike is on the Spectrum. I wonder if that's on the... It's certainly available for the Amstrad, isn't it? Whether it was at this time or not, I don't know, but that costs £5.95 and is at number 5, one place above. I'm sure Acorn Soft aren't weeping over Elite only being number 6, with the £15 retail price. Now, let's have a look at what the top-selling computers were for this Christmas. And the Commodore 64, the CVM 64, was number 1, but the Spectrum Plus is at number 6, and the standard Spectrum 48K is at number 2. PCN's weird idea of splitting some machines some weeks, then combine them other weeks, as we've seen before. I think it's pretty safe to say the Spectrum was number 1, given it's got number 6 and number 2. The Elk, surprising, at number 3. These are the prices listed here are the recommended retail prices. And of course, the Elk was being heavily discounted already. We've not seen yet, but 1985 is the year that Acorn have real problems, partly because of the poor sales during Christmas 85 and other things going on. So although the Elk might look healthy at number 3, there's a number of reasons why that isn't making Acorn the kind of money they'd hoped for. CPC's at number 4. As we've seen before, the PCN like to sometimes split the green screen and the colour monitor Amstrads. Perhaps they've combined it this week. Who knows? These charts sometimes seem to be a law unto themselves. The 800XL at number 8. And the MSX series, that's all the MSXs available at this time, at number 9. And then Memotech at number 10. QB Compuco, I don't know. Home Computerists. Who is writing this stuff? Home Computerists stowaway cabinet desk for only £57.50 plus carriage. which is probably £1,000,000 to get something that size. Oh, it's £5, okay. You can have it in white for £57.50, light oak for £64, or rustic oak for £64 as well. Look at this advert here. Now, you don't need to look at who the retailer is to know who this is. It's Silica, of course, who 10 years later would be running similar adverts for Amigas and things like this. There you go, Silica Shop and #1 Atari specialists. The new Atari 64K 800 XL, £129. Of course, the XE is going to be up very, very soon. I thought the XL was not that new at this time, is it? But they got all the peripherals, and yes, this is Silica, as you'll know from all those Amiga packs in the 90s. Amstrad here, a complete workstation for the price of a home computer. And Amstrad marketing themselves here after Christmas, oddly enough. But, oh look, there's the DD1 disk interface. There, and the Amstrad User Club card, and Amstrad DMP1 printer there. DMP1 isn't Epson compatible. That comes with the DMP2000, the next model that came out. These printers, Amstrad didn't really design their own printers. They used to buy in the gubbins from another manufacturer whose name I can't remember, and would just do their own plastic case. So that was easier for them to do that rather than start designing and manufacturing printers. And the DMP2000, of course, are put together in the Timex factory up in Dundee, which Alan Sugar threw to them as a kind of thing to be nice after he took the Sinclair contract away from them. Here we go. Right. So here we are with the Enterprise again. A company called Elan originally launched the Enterprise in 1983. At the time, it was thought to be the greatest thing to happen to home computing since the invention of the microchip. Unfortunately, the machine didn't materialise when promised, and only now, after the company has changed its name 3 times and projected price of the computer has been increased, is set to materialise in high street shops. At the original price of £199, the Enterprise completely wiped the opposition away. However, now most of the other manufacturers have lowered their prices. The shout of joy from eager customers and praise from the computer press have been replaced by a sullen silence and the odd comment of, "Why are we still waiting? It has taken quite a long time to get this machine out." So we've seen what they thought about it at the time, which was PCM were quite keen on the machine and didn't seem to be mentioning when they reviewed it, in '84, that it wasn't available. So this is kind of a rehash of the previous review, and of course it's after Christmas now, so again, hardware review after Christmas, what's the point of that? Get it out in October, November. Interesting thing here, the power supply produces a very loud buzzing sound. I can only hope this was a transformer supplied by my machine is not going to be a common problem. Power Up greets you with the name Enterprise flashing in multicolour characters on the screen. Unfortunately, on my Fidelity portable TV, which works perfectly well with every other computer, the colour promptly disappeared, never to return. The TV still works with other computers in colour. The second TV proved to work perfectly with the computer. The Enterprise boasts 256 colours on the machine. Obviously, it's not possible to get every colour totally on the screen, but 256 colours is very impressive at the time. And they've had problems with the cassettes as well. They couldn't load all the programs. Going well then, isn't it? Verdict. A year ago, the Enterprise would have stood out as a market leader. Today, with Sinclair, Acorn and Commodore and perhaps MSX, no mention of Amstrad. It's odd, isn't it? Amstrad's, I always say this, Amstrad bubbling under, selling lots of computers, not making a lot of fuss. Acorn, Commodore and perhaps MSX all becoming household names. It will probably have much harder time making an impact. It's going to have no impact. Even so, it's not a bad machine. The basic, for all its length, is extremely good and should prove extremely easy to use, especially for the beginner. Yeah, £249. Nobody bought it. It's late. It's dead in the water. Now, going ahead to the following week, Commodore and Atari steal the show. Magnificent 7 from the US Giants. So let's scroll down because this is going to be a big one. When the wreckage was cleared away and the bodies removed, The score at last week's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas was Atari 5, Commodore 2. Business is war, says Atari boss Jack Tramiel, and his New Look Corporation went for every jugular in sight as its multi-product launch stopped the show. Commodore hit back but was beaten for panache, scope and sheer nerve. The rest were nowhere. The Atari slogan at Las Vegas was "Power without the price." When the dust settles and the machines get the chance to prove themselves, we know about the power, but the prices are amazing. On paper, Atari has killed off the Macintosh. Yeah. The QL, I don't think Atari even know what the QL is, and any number of mid-range micros in one fell swoop. Nice hyperbole there, but yeah, not really true. Coleco made a splash along the same lines, the same show 2 years ago, and in the end it couldn't deliver. Atari's machine looked far more ambitious. With Tramiel involved, anything could happen. So we've got the XE launched, which is direct descendant of the 800 XL. The ST is also launched. The 65 XEM adds a music synthesizer to the XE. And the 130 XE as well. And there's lots going on here. Tramiel seems to be making a bid for immortality in more ways than one. So this is the first sighting of the ST, really, and they're talking about it. The Commodore 128 is also launched, but yeah. And of course, no Amiga as yet, because Atari were desperate to beat the Amiga to market. But in the world's most famous gambling city, Jack Tramiel was in his element. The most awe-inspiring feature of Atari's performance at CES is the new machines are first to be released under his leadership. It was far from being the last desperate throw of a cornered man. There are more on the way. 32-bit systems due to be demonstrated in the spring. Oh, there's a portable as well, the XEP. Anyone ever seen one of these? Wow, never seen a portable Atari XE. Skipping ahead to the 2nd of April, and doing this because these magazines are getting pretty thin. Price wars, because all the prices are being slashed after Christmas due to the manufacturers being left with lots of stock. Acorn in trouble, £70 off the Elk. Sinclair knocking £50 off the Spectrum, and the 48K Spectrum is discontinued. That's of course the Spectrum Plus there, and the 48K there, with the 48K Plus, sorry, just to not confuse anyone. And Sinclair set the cat among the pigeons by slashing the price of the Spectrum Plus, and as a result the full-scale price war is on the way. Acorn responded immediately by taking £70 off the cost of an Electron. Gotta hurt. As I said before, the Elk was already being discounted in shops for Christmas '85. It was extremely late to the market. Again, this is just kind of officially kind of putting a price cut in there, because Acorn have got lots and lots of these machines. They haven't sold in quite the volumes Acorn wanted them to, and it's becoming a bit of a problem, so they need to shift stock. Commodore said last week it was closely watching the situation, but had no immediate plans to alter the price of the Commodore 64, quite rightly. MSX prices are continuing to fall in ones and twos. Mitsubishi is the latest to offer a new machine, and a special offer that brought the Amstrad below £200 over Christmas is another sign of the way the wind is blowing. One thing about Amstrad producing price, Amstrad aren't having problems shifting the machines. A lot of them going to France and Spain. But also, actually, there's something that's going to happen that makes sense why Amstrad are dropping the price of the 464 now to the level that we become familiar with, the 199 for a green screen 464, 299 for a colour 464. And we'll see that in a little bit later on, but just keep that in mind. The Spectrum Plus and the Electron now match each other stride for stride at 129, but if you already own a Spectrum, it will cost less to turn it into a Plus. £20 for a kit, £30 for Sinclair service. as opposed to £30 or £50 a few weeks ago. So basically, Sinclair take your machine and stick it in a new case and charge you 30 quid for it. Oh, more ORAC news. ORAC's dream machine, the Stratos, will now make its debut in Germany at the International Microcomputer Fair this week. Originally, the 64K Stratos was due to make an appearance in March to make a clean sweep of the French markets. Oh, dear Bruce. Bruce. But yet again, the machine company has changed course. The French must wait for another month or so. Oh dear. So yeah, I mean, it's hopeless. It's absolutely hopeless. Forward to February the 19th, why Acorn has cracked. What caused the crisis? Acorn in freefall, massive problems now. I'm not going to go through all the issues of PCN detailing this, but we're going to see a little bit out of it. The future Acorn hangs in the balance this week. The storm that threatened to sink the company a week ago shows no sign of blowing over. As PCN went to press, Acorn was shouting behind the wall of silence. Its official statement is the company was reorganising its finances. Matters came to a head last week. The company's share price dipped to 23 pence before trading in the stock was suspended. It transpired Acorn had changed its bankers, moving from Lazar Brothers to lesser unknown Close Brothers, and its broker Casanova had resigned. This points to serious disagreement over financial policy, since the company's banker is also its financial advisor. City stockbrokers expect Acorn to show a loss in this year's business after June 1985 after years of consistent growth. The crisis appears to have struck Acorn halfway through a reorganisation. It's trimmed its distributors and so on. The vast numbers of BBC Micro sold, coupled with a well-developed support industry that's grown around the machine, could make Acorn an attractive proposition. Yeah, it could, as long as it was perhaps bought by a company that actually cared and wanted it. So yes, I'm scanning through these issues of PCN now, but they're really getting kind of thin in terms of reviews and stuff. There's less machines and things coming out now. Although we've got something here, we've got a Tandy M1000. This is the machine that Lazy Games Reviewer, LGR, reviewed the other week, isn't he? He's got one of these. The M1000 launched at Which Computer is part of a concerted effort on Tandy's part to change its image. Even the old comfortable is that a typo? Model has been dropped. Although it's hard to be excited about the release of yet another IBM compatible, Tandy is hoping the extra features added to the 1000 along with the new price might just make people stand up and take notice. If you're looking for a dirt cheap IBM compatible that will be well supported and expandable, then a Tandy 1000 has got to figure high on your list of possibles. While it doesn't have too many hardware advantages over other compatibles, it has the most immediately useful bundled software you're likely to see on an IBMable. Deskmate gives the 1000 an edge over the machines such as the Advanced. This is a launcher thing. This is a bit of launcher software that Tandy give away with it. PC Junior compatibility gives the machine an added curiosity value, as it's the first machine released this side of the Atlantic to run a large number of machines written for IBM's home computer. And what's the cost? £1,099. Ooh, that's not cheap in today's money. That's £2,500 to £3,000. Ooh, and that's without a hard disk controller. Oh dear. 2nd of March 1985, more Acorn. Acorn quits home computing. And PCN is leading on these big headlines now as opposed to the more glamorous covers they had even 6 months ago with machines being launched and nice artwork on the cover. This is getting cheap and cheerful. They're leading with these kind of stories in this first page here, like this, and having that on the cover as well. So Acorn is pulling up the home computing market in the wake of Olivetti's rescue last week. Acorn clearly intends to turn off the Electron's life support system. A company statement followed the takeover spoke of the need to further reduce Acorn's dependence on the volatile home computer market. Chris Curry hinted as much as last month when the price of the Electron was slashed by £70. The BBC Micro, under its new regime, will revert to its specialist educational status. And this is, Olivetti want to aim to make the machine the world's leading educational micro. This is Acorn completely and utterly retreating, giving up. Neither Acorn nor its Italiani would say anything definite last week, but the individual machines, the writing has been on the wall for the Electron since Christmas. Remember, the Electron was number 3 in the charts, but it's making Acorn no money at all, and they're not selling enough of them. It's no good being high up in a sales chart when you're not making the margin. This is always the thing that when even when Sinclair were having problems, and Amstrad kind of were making lots of money on the CPC because it was an expensive product with a good markup on those coloured disk drive models. Not just colour, £100 extra for colour. Nice bit of margin in there, let alone the disk drive models as well. These things, disk drives and colour monitors, don't cost that much more, but you're making a nice margin on these things. And Acorn is trying to launch this machine really, really cheaply, not making enough margin. It's late to market, and they're relying on selling volume, and they're not getting quite enough volume because the UK on its own isn't enough. If you're making a sophisticated piece of electronics like a computer, you can't just flog it into the UK. Even the Spectrum was being sold into Spain and all around Europe, CPC, France, Spain, Germany, the C64, going to, from America, UK, Germany. You need bigger markets. Just selling the ALC into the UK, complete disaster. You need to get further afield. And just scrolling down, +4 waves engulf Commodore ahead. Commodore has its feelers out for a new general manager after the shock resignation of Harold Stanworth. Stanworth parted with Commodore under amicable circumstances, Commodore says, but his resignation follows a hard on the heels of a 50% price cut to the +4, which is understanding to put the cat among the pigeons throughout the Commodore hierarchy. Yes, because as we said in the last part of this PCN piece, when the PCN reviewed the +4 in 1984, it was horrifically overpriced. It was more expensive than a C64 and didn't even come with a tape recorder for that price. It was ludicrously priced. So a price reduction was certainly on the cards. But it says here, officially Stanworth presented the price cut as an opportunist response to market conditions, i.e. Acorn's difficulties, but it was widely interpreted as indicated the days the +4 itself were numbered thanks to lack of interest from software suppliers. The +4 doesn't even make the top 10, I don't think, in any weeks, the top 10 sale charts in PCN. Meanwhile, over at Sinclair moves to quash supply fears, redundancies at Commodore and the debacle at Acorn may have left the micro market in a near state of panic, but Sinclair research has no intention of going the same way. Give it a year. On the face of it, recent news from Sinclair is bleak. The company has cut back on deliveries of machines to stockists, postponed the US launch of the QL, and lost its distributor Lightning as an outlet for its hardware. But a spokesman was keen to point out these developments have no long-term significance. Chinny reckon. The thing is, right, Sinclair are in a terrible state, but they've got a machine that's selling really well and is profitable. The problem is, of course, Clive's spending all the money on harebrained schemes, wafer scale integration, C5s, all sorts of bonkers stuff. But the Spectrum and the QL, of course, but the Spectrum is selling in huge numbers. But of course, we all know the way it goes. On to March 85, Britain fights the MSX challenge. The Empire strikes back. And again, you can see it's very basic covers now on PCN. It's end days. So the IBM racks the PC Junior. But let's scroll down. So I want to see what's going on in the sales charts now, where we are. We're in late March 1985. Soft Aid number 1, Alien 8 number 2, Raid over Moscow number 3, Bruce Lee number 4, Ghostbusters number 5. Now at a stage where you've probably played all the games in that chart there. Castle Quest by Micropower, the Acorn. I might not have played that, but the rest are all pretty standard stuff you'll know. In the computer charts, Spectrum's number 1, the Commodore 64 is number 2, the ELK is still number 3, but The official price is now £129. It's being sold off £70-80 in places. It's not profitable. It's just being dumped. The CPC is still number 4. The BBC Micro at number 5. That will be making Acorn some money, but it's about the only thing that is. 800XL at number 6, and the Einstein at number 10. Now let's just think about this. The Einstein costs £500, and it is still above the Commodore Plus 4. Just think, it's ludicrous, isn't it, really? The Plus 4, even though it's now discounted, is still selling less than the Einstein. And if we look at the above £1,000 computers, we've got the IBM PC XT at number 1, the Acorn at number 2, the compact machine, which is IBM compatible, at number 3. Is the Olivetti M24 IBM compatible? Possibly. The DEC won't be. The Macintosh at number 7, the Wang Professional, which I think that's IBM compatible as well, isn't it? And what is the Televideo TS1603 or the Columbia PC2 I've never heard of, down there at number 9 and 10. Here's a flight simulator I've never heard of. Meridian Flight Simulation. Real-time simulation with 3D graphics. Uses massive 64,000 by 64,000 longitude and latitude flying area, making each flight completely different. Developed under pilot instruction to give realistic flight effect. Look at that, a drawing of a plane that fills you with confidence. We've got to seek this one out. We've got to seek this one out and see what's it like one of these weeks. Oh dear. Oh dear. But you get a free colour poster with it, which is about the most fun you're going to get out of a copy of Super Gran. Oh, hang on, there's another page from Meridian Flight Simulator. They're pushing this. Yeah, these screenshots are really making me want to play this flight sim. So that cover feature is basically another item in the news section, as opposed to something more in-depth in the magazine. The government and the UK micro industry have joined forces to meet the threat of the Japanese MSX standard. MSX is coming to get you. It's coming to steal your electronics business from you and put you out of business by this evil standardisation of computers. The government of the UK micro industry have joined forces to meet the threat of the new Japanese MSX standard. Under the wing of the National Economic Development Corporation, a committee of UK manufacturers has been formed to create a homegrown alternative to the MSX. Oh dear. The committee was formed secretly last September, and its meetings have taken place behind hermetically sealed doors. The NEDC coordinator refused to talk about it last week, and members were equally difficult to pin down. Incommunicado in Cambridge were inclined to maintain the cloak of secrecy. Nobody involved would discuss the committee's work. Yeah, this is all just hot air. Oh right, Amstrad aren't there. So we don't know who actually is on this committee, but we do know that Amstrad aren't there. The other option of the committee in theory concerns future systems, but the absence of Amstrad and Enterprise in the committee's ranks strongly suggests it isn't talking about the micros in the usual sense of home entertainment machines. The absence of Amstrad in the committee is odd in itself. Amstrad has probably more experience of consumer electronics than the rest of the UK micro industry put together. I think, yeah, and Digital Research aren't on the committee, but they're qualified because they're American. Yeah, it's just all just balderdash and poppycock, isn't it, really? I don't think, really, that they're worrying about this machine that really isn't a threat. April 27th, 1985, Amstrad does it again. Are we going to get a review of the 664? I'm guessing not. I'm guessing it's going to be a tiny little feature in the news section. Yep, there we go. CPC 664 adds drive. Amstrad has launched its second computer following early product policy to the letter. Nothing startling, little that's new, no mistakes and a competitive price. All in all, the CPC 664 can only consolidate Amstrad's position in the market. Gonna say this, no mistakes, but this machine's coming off the market within about 6 months to be replaced with the 6128. The justification for the new machine is its built-in disk drive. The 3-inch unit Amstrad released at the beginning of this year, which replaces the 464's cassettes player. Other minor changes include a slightly modified keyboard, which has seen the removal of the rather lurid blue, green and red keys. I like the blue, green and red keys. The truly impressive aspect of the 664 is pricing. At £340 for the system with green screen and $440 for the colour version, it represents exceptional value for money, especially as CPM and the excellent digital research logo are included free. And that is why the 464 price went down, because Amstrad were adjusting, so the cheapest 664 would be more expensive than the colour 464 at $299 basically by now. However, a couple of doubts remain. The first concerns software compatibility with the 464, and this is the usual thing because, magazines always like to do this stuff with any new computer because they ask the question, is it fully compatible? Which the manufacturer can only say, well, yes, providing the program has followed the firmware guide to begin with and didn't use any shortcuts. Usual thing. The second of their doubts is the choice of 3-inch disk drives. Although 3.5-inch discs are now widespread on the Macintosh, very expensive, Apricot, very expensive, and Hewlett-Packard, very expensive machines, they tend to be expensive and difficult to find. 3-inch discs suffer both these problems too. So basically you're saying that they've chosen 3-inch, but they could have chosen 3.5-inch when both are expensive and both are hard to come by. And on the caption there it says Alan Sugar's hoping to sell 600,000 CPCs in 1985. Now on to the last ever edition of Personal Computer News. Still only 40p and still just about being published. Exclusive hands-on test with the new 512K Atari ST, Atari's dream machine. So a previous week, Acorn have launched the BBC Plus computer as well, but I've skipped over that. Let's have a quick look at the news section. Commodore hit by losses. If you thought things were looking bad on the home computer market, confirmation arrived this week with news from Commodore, where the world's number one is up against the ropes. The US giant has posted third quarter losses of $20 million. A year earlier, it was showing profits of $36 million. Worst of all, Chairman Irving Gold has warned the company will probably show a loss on the year's operations. It's been a while since that happened. Mr. Gold was quoted in the Financial Times last week as saying earnings were affected by a price reduction in February, a reluctance of retailers to rebuild their depleted inventory, and by general slowdown in non-US sales. That sounds like a bit of guff to us, but it's taken a face value of what Mr. Gold is saying is Commodore couldn't afford to go into a price war, and even after it did, retailers still thought its products were wrongly priced. The truth is Commodore entered 1984 like a champion and came out staggering. Its product range was badly scrambled with the introduction of the C16 and Plus 4. The 128 machine is what it should have released for Christmas. If anyone from Commodore is reading this, we suggest you drop the 16 and Plus 4, cut the 64 to the position of the VIC once held, and move the 128 into the 64 slot, and put your faith in God and the Amiga, not necessarily in that order. Yeah, I mean pretty much that, except just drop the 128 as well, really, because that's also dead in the water. Oh, there you go. 3D Star Strike is now out on the CPC. Looking pretty nice there. There you go, our last chart then. Soft Aid still number 1. World Series Baseball number 2. Brian Jacks at number 3. Terrible game. Spy Hunter at number 4. And how are we doing in the computer charts? Well, at number 1, the Spectrum. At number 2, the CPC. At number 3, the C64. At number 4, the BBC-B. The Elk now slipping down to number 6. The Einstein at number 7. At £500. And at £500 at number 7, it is outselling the Commodore 16. And the MSX, come to that, and the QL. astonishing, really. Again, yeah, the Einsteins, I keep on saying, that's well over £1,000 in today's money, and it's outselling Commodore's bargain basement machine. Probably says more about how poorly the C16 is performing now as compared to how well the Einstein is, because the Einstein was a flop as well. Things so bad now at PCN, they can't even afford colour for the Atari ST system review. The new Ataris are coming, and that's official. Last week there was one 520 ST in the country and a dozen or so in Germany, but 200 development machines are scheduled for arrival this month, and the first full system should reach end users by the end of the summer. So it looks like they've probably had a play with this in Atari's UK HQ. Currently the ST is nearly finished. The review machine was running a disk version of GEM, and something like the first 1,500 machines will come in this configuration. Why not just ship machines that are ready rather than shipping machines that aren't quite working, unless they are for development? But they've said 200 machines rather than 1,500, so who knows. These machines will also come with Digital Research logo and Personal Basic. 2 languages still under development, but were at testable state when we saw the machine. GEM itself is now running on the 520, and as you expect from a 68,000 processor, it's running very fast indeed. The ROM version should be faster, even faster. Loads of adverts between the pages there. The verdict. The ST itself is fast, powerful and attractive, although even the cut-down version promises to be a shade on the pricey side for a mass-market machine. We'll let the price come down, because it will eventually. As an operating system, GEM also looks good. GEM looks good, the first time I ever heard that said. But it's doubtful it can become so universal it percolates through down to low-cost machines, where, it's Digital Research last gasp, really, isn't it? Even if it does, it's not certain it will be much use to entry-level users. In that sense, there will still be room for cheaper machines, including Atari's 130 XE in this Christmas marketplace. If it's possible to design a surefire winning machine, this is it. Nothing on cost yet, I notice, on the specifications there. But wait, not trailed on the front cover, we've also got the Atari XE as well. A review of that again in black and white. So we all know about the Atari 8-bit, but they actually do give you colour. This is madness. You get colour for the inside of the XE, but not the ST. Verdict. The Atari 130 XE should certainly be a winner, with 128K of RAM, superb graphics and sound facilities, a plethora of software already available, and a very attractive price tag. Other manufacturers must be getting worried. And we do get a price on that. It's £169. So it's coming in at the same price pretty much as the 800 XL. Amstrad users, special offer. A frustrated order means we have a limited quantity of interfaces in stock. These interfaces have been designed and manufactured by us and are ready for immediate delivery. They are on case to have many features, including full RS-232, 8 software-controlled baud rates, 24-bit parallel port, sideways ROM option, operating system included, 2 sideways ROM sockets for ROM-based software, fully compatible disk system, ideal for software houses intending to produce sideways ROMs, write or telephone for more details to Skywave Software, 73 Curzon Road, Bournemouth. And that's it for PCN. We sign off there with what looks like, a advert for Silica, £69 for an Atari 600 XL. I'd fancy me one of those for £69 with a Donkey Kong cartridge and Quicks and a joystick. Okay, it's not going to run much software, but £69. And look, a few months ago, Silica were trailing the 800 XL as the new 800 XL, and now they've got the new 130 XE for £169, which is it's a good price. I always wonder how Silica survived kind of selling, kind of pushing the kind of minority machines like that, but they did. So that's about it for PCN. Sorry the final editions aren't too exciting, but that's what happens when a magazine goes into decline. Perhaps we'll look at another set of magazines another time, here on ChinnyVision.